Hello and welcome again to another tutorial. In this video we're looking at airbrushing. Now I'm by no means an airbrushing expert, but it is something I can do and it is something that I've taught myself to do and do well enough for the things that I need to do with it. The best piece of advice I can give you, and I think I say this a lot in the video, is have a go. So many of us have had airbrushes sitting there for years and years and we're all a little bit frightened of them. So don't be afraid of it. Have a go, follow what I do in this video, and do come back for the second part, which will be up soon, where there's just like a little project and I show you how to airbrush a gradient onto a cake. Okay, this comes with a huge caveat, which is that whilst I have an airbrush and I use an airbrush and I know how to take care of it, and I more or less know what to do with it, I am by no stretch an expert. So I'm going to do my best to answer any questions that you've got. I am guilty of using my airbrush to enhance my cake designs more than using it in its own right, if that makes sense. If, however, we all get into airbrushing and you all love it, I'm totally up for getting some people in who are much better at it than me. Basically, we could totally arrange that. So we'll see how it goes. Again, keep it super simple this evening because very, very much geared for those of you who have one and haven't taken it out of the box or have had a disaster and you're a bit frightened of it. So we're not going to do anything fancy. It's going to be how to use it. Various things to help keep where you're working clean, etc. Like we'll get into it. But yeah, I reckon we can have at least one or two more sessions with them with the airbrushing as well. So let's do it.
Let's try it.
So, okay, the first tip that I have for you, today, we're just going to be working on paper, flat, so it won't be too messy. When you're working on bigger cakes and you're sort of spraying up at the cake instead of down onto the table, it can make a bit of a mess, obviously. So what I have is shower curtains that I will rig in whatever fashion necessary to create myself a space that I can make a mess of, and then I just throw them in a washing machine. So you'll see in a minute my desk is covered with a shower curtain, and they are those clothy plasticky ones. She says, contradiction. They're waterproof more or less, but they're also a little bit absorbent. So because what you don't want, if you do make a spill, you don't want it as a puddle. Because if it's sitting there as a puddle, then it's just too easy to put your hand in it. I've already made a mess today. I already knocked something on the floor today, actually.
You did.
Some words were said. So yeah, having some shower curtains, or indeed old shower curtains, whatever. It just, and what I used to do, so when we were in a flat, the kitchen it had a dead end. We have a galley kitchen now is what I mean. So there's a door at either end. Whereas in the flat, there was just one door in and out, which meant there was a corner. And what I used to do was tuck these ring bits into the top of the cupboards at the top so that I could literally cover the whole corner in it and then just spray to my heart's content. So you will see I have one on my desk, and that was what I've sort of hidden the mouse and the keyboard and everything under it, so I don't do problem with that.
But,
that's the first thing.
Pretty cheap way of creating.
Yeah, totally. So we've got, I have some pictures. I went through and found pictures of cakes that I'd airbrushed. We've gone way back. So if you want to scroll through those, Chris, and it's just to show you guys.
Oh, okay.
What?
You might need to move over for this one.
Oh, okay.
Once you're left.
I do it every time. So, for example, we've only been doing this for nearly 5 years or whatever it is. The crust on that pizza is airbrushed. You could probably do that with dust. It is easier to do with an airbrush, as you can see. So that would be one example. That one there, airbrushing on the castle bit. More than that is the airbrushing on the
dragon. And
the map is the main thing. The dragon, you could dust that, but getting that effect on the map would be almost impossible without an airbrush. I will also layer airbrushing with dusting. So the dragon there has both. because as ever, it's the same like when we're doing dusting, you're building up the layers of detail. So I would tend to use airbrushing as my first, the initial layers, and then dusting for the extra detail. What else have we got? To be honest, take forever. Oh, similar idea. So again, the map, that sort of sepia tone, etc. There, that one was fun actually. They were a really lovely couple. They were a super lovely couple. It was a mashup of everyone's favourite things. But yeah, so again, it's shading and it's tone and stuff. This one, classic colour gradient, which is one of the things we're going to look at today, which you can do with one colour, you can do with more than one colour. That is where the shower curtains come in handy. Because to do something like that, you need to have the cake stacked. There's no way, I don't think so anyway, but there's no way you could get the right colour dark at the bottom all the way through across the tiers, matching to make that perfect gradient from dark to light if you were doing them separately. And obviously if you've got a 4-tier cake that's stacked, it's this big, hence the shower curtains rather than a box, because it's hard, it'd be hard put to get a box that big.
The next one will lose you completely.
Okay. Georgie's first birthday cake. That was his name?
Tamatoa.
Tamatoa. So it's from Moana. He's a big scary crab that collects treasure. It was all airbrushed, and that's one we'll talk a bit about layering colours. So if I remember rightly, I think he started off all white. And then I airbrushed the whole thing, which I'll be honest, is not something I often do. But you can see how there is one bit where, so on his face and his claws, I did the pink first and then added the blue on top, because the blue will cover over the pink, whereas it wouldn't work the other way around. So you do need to just think a little bit about layering your colours and stuff. And as always, you can add more, you can't take it away. This one's another colour gradient, same deal. This one it was the egg, and there was a conscious choice with this actually to airbrush the egg and the tentacles, but not the face hugger itself, because I wanted the face hugger to look matte, so he's dusted. And funnily enough, I said to you earlier, I made that for our best mate's 30th birthday, and they turned 40 this year. God help us. So that one was from a little while ago. What else have we got? Oh, a tortoise. That one's very old as well, actually.
This is pre-tortoising.
Hey?
Well, as in that wasn't the finished cake, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was just a show, yeah. And that was the one, do you remember I'd put it on social media, and then your nan was like, oh, you guys got a tortoise? I was like, no. But again, airbrushed, and there's a couple of others, I think. So another big sepia tone jobby. This one was friends of ours, and the brief was, can you do the Bayeux tapestry on a cake? To which the answer obviously was yes. As well as the what's name? The metallic on there was airbrushed on the scales to be like scale mail, and the castle-y bit. I think we were almost there. Anyway, that just around the edge. You can see there's a lot of sepia toning. I realise there's a theme here that I wasn't aware of entirely. And a cauliflower. So one thing where airbrushing is really useful with that, you can see you've got those giant leaves on it, and the airbrushing is handy because getting an even tone and shading and stuff on such a big leaf, because they were like the size of my hand, with dust it's quite hard to do it without getting the marks. So again, airbrushing is handy. I think that's the last one.
Yep.
Oh, there's one more. So that was another one of the Kate Stewart magazines, and that one is another gradient.
Was it a feature for that magazine, or was it?
It was, yeah. It was
wedding dresses.
Fashion thing.
Well, you can see on the cover.
Oh yeah, look, there's fashion thing, yeah.
It was inspired by the dress on the front cover.
It was, yeah. Various different things we can do with it, from giving ourselves a base to add flowers to, using it to do the whole thing, like with that crab. There's lots of different things. But today the goal is to just turn the thing on, get it out of the box and turn it on. Right. So I have to say, actually, thank you very much. Compliments about the case. It was fun looking at those because I said this to you earlier, didn't I? It is very easy to get caught up in the now and forget
about things you've done.
Things that you've done and things that have changed and the evolution and all the rest of it. And, you know, yeah, it's been some time we've been doing this, so it was nice to look at them. Right. Thank you, dear. Right, so I have a nice little Spraycraft airbrush. It is a wee thing, as you can see. Like barely any controls on it. You turn it on and then you can have high, medium or low air pressure. When they come out of the box, you will need to connect the hose to the airbrush end and connect it to the gun end. To be honest, I don't know if I've ever took it apart, maybe once or twice. If you do take it apart, if you have to take this off, you might want to cut that end off so that you can put it back on without it being stretched. Some more fancy models will actually have a connector there as opposed to just shoving it on. And this one has a little holder at the side, which is good because the ink, what do we call it?
The reservoir ink well.
Yeah. Obviously, if you put it down like this and there's stuff in it, it's going to spill. So keep this safe. You will thank yourself for it. The long and short of how one of these ones works. This is a single action one. So that means that the air is always passing through, and when you pull the trigger back, it lets the ink flow. Whereas you can have dual action ones, which I know about, but I've never personally used, where you have two triggers. One does the air pressure and the other one does the flow of ink. I'm not great at multitasking, so I feel like the single action is fine for me. Shall we have a go at doing it, and then we can do a bit of troubleshooting and some cleaning afterwards? Because I can show you how to take this apart and how to clean it, but we might as well do it when I've got something to clean.
You're not going to take the trigger apart, are you?
Absolutely not.
No.
Right, we will talk about that as well. So Jo's just said that she's had mixed success and failure, and rebuilding it can be a nightmare. Yes, it can. Basically, and I'll show you this again at the end, there is a very long, thin needle that runs the whole... You're zooming in. Right, really long, thin needle that runs the whole length of it. And be careful, because it's blooming sharp. There's a spring in here. When you pull the trigger back, I don't know if you can see the needle moving there, but what it basically does is it pulls back the needle so that the ink can flow. You should be able to.
Yeah, you can, just about.
The spring and this trigger and this little extra bit are all arranged very specifically just inside here, and if that bit comes apart, it is an absolute painful process to put it back. You can, but you need to look for a video on YouTube for...
We did find one. I think it's still saved on YouTube.
Dawn did one. Dawn from Dinky Doodle has one of how to put back the trigger in a single action airbrush. I've always made you do it, haven't I? Because I just get frustrated.
Yeah.
So anyway, in terms of colours, all sorts of different things. So I've got some old ones. I've got all sorts. I've got some Cassie Brown ones. I've got some Sugar Flare ones in here. I've got a Dinky Doodle one. I did have some Molly ones somewhere. And I've got a bunch of chroma colours, which is what my airbrush came with. There's a few of you I've seen saying about that your colours are out of date. Remember that colours, it's going to be a best before, not a use by. So it is a case of a best before in terms of quality and usability as opposed to anything to do with safety. It's not like having a use by date on meat that can become risky and dangerous afterwards. So it's nothing that in all likelihood a good shake isn't going to fit and you're going to be fine to use those colours. Which is exactly what I'm doing today. The date, and I'm not even going to tell you the date on these because it's embarrassing. I have also got to hand, I have some water and some rejuvenator spirit, so just ethanol, high percentage alcohol that we can use to clean through and stuff. I have an entire roll of kitchen paper because we're going to go through this. I've got some water in a spray bottle just so that I can dampen the kitchen paper, because otherwise I'll be running backwards and forwards to the sink. And I have a couple of pipettes which may prove useful. If you've not got pipettes, you can always do the whole plugging the end of a straw to pick up a few drops. And the only reason for those is that I've got Molly's ones somewhere as well. Like I said, I don't know where that's gone. I've got about 6 or 7 different types of airbrush colour bottles here, and every single blooming one drips and leaks all over the place when you try and use the dropper. So just be aware of that, which is what, hence the things. And you can see I've already caused a problem there. So I am going to start off working in some teal, because why not? It's a nice colour. So on this occasion, I'm just going to take the lid off and I'm going to use a little pipette. And I will just pick some of that up, and I'm going to put, like, to start with, just pop a few drops in there. We'll fill it about halfway. Don't overdo it, because you don't want to spill it. And I've got a piece of paper. I can turn the airbrush on. Before I turn it on, there's a couple of things to remember. You need to imagine the airbrush putting out a cone of spray, which is effectively what it does. That's what happens. So if you are very close to the picture, it's going to make a more precise inking spray. The further away you are, it's going to do a larger amount. And then, of course, the more or less you pull that trigger back is going to allow more or less colour to come out. So let's just have a go. There's nothing we can do about the noise of the thing, of course. If I'm not talking loud enough over it, tell me and I'll shout. So I'll put it on the medium setting, and we're just going to very gently pull the trigger back, and you will see the colour coming out. So what I was talking about is that if we're here and I do that, you can see you get that fine mist. If I go much closer, you can see we get a much smaller point and build up of colour.
It's a more concentrated.
Yes. The most important thing to remember with this is, if you want a really dark colour, don't do that, because that is going to take forever and a day to dry. You can already see where the colour's built up. It's just not. You're always better little layers, letting it dry, adding another one. So like this here, we can do that, and we can come back to that again in a minute and do it. What I would suggest, I'll turn this off for a sec, you guys can do, and this is a really simple thing, and it's something that Karina Maguire, Loving from the Oven, I was chatting to her earlier, and she said, so just grab a bit of paper, you can draw a grid out on it. You can make yours as big or as you like. And all you're going to do is, you can start off, you can do some nice little dots in the middles. And can you see I'm doing so gentle to get those dots. We're not too close. We're not letting the colour build up too much. We're just getting a nice even coverage.
So is that just being very careful with the trigger?
Very careful with the trigger. We can then try to follow a line across. Okay, so we can add airbrushing and talking to two things. I can't do it all at once, like with the painting and talking. So you can do that. It's also a nice thing to sort of make a pattern on.
So just to practice your control.
Exactly. So one thing to bear in mind is, so let's say I'm going to colour in this block and I'll colour in this block. If I colour in going side to side like this, can you see how you get that build up of colour at the edges? And that's from doing that side to side motion, like that. Whereas, if you go very gentle and you go round and round and round in little circles, like this, you can create a much more even tone to the colour. Now, if I want to fill this out, you've got to wait a little while, let it dry. I'll waft it so it's a bit quicker and we can go in again. I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that folk make with it is doing too much at once. So it's just like with your dusting, right? Or colouring paste, anything. I can use my favourite phrase, which is, you can always add more, but you cannot take it away. You are better off building up layers as pale as this and adding and adding and adding to hit that than trying to do it all at once and creating a sticky mess. So keeping that nice and step by step is going to be really good. Your airbrush colour, like, it does go quite far. You can see I've still got some in there and I only sort of half filled it. And it is a really pretty colour actually. It's the chroma colour teal, is what it's called. You can also, like, you just sit and play with it. So we can, you know, you can practice.
So I can't remember who said that somebody said that they've got a children's colouring book.
Yep.
Sam says that. But yeah, that's a good.
It's a great idea, and just see what a difference it makes as well. See, look, if you're closer, as opposed to further away. The main thing, like we said, if we wanted to make this darker still, we can come back to it now that it's dried. Is to just build up in layers. You don't want those spots. Especially because when you are working on icing, so the colours have got, they're mixed up with alcohol so that they dry relatively quickly. Paper is absorbent. Fondant icing, sugar paste icing isn't. So if you do too much on icing, you know, if you do that, that is going to soak into the paper relatively quickly, like it did over here. Something with that is rattling. Yeah. On icing, it's going to, like, sit there. It's a problem. So it really is just about going easy.
Do you know if you can use them on buttercream? So
it's, oh yeah, you can totally use them on buttercream, but again, same principle, build up those layers really, really, really slowly. It's so important that. I can see another question there saying, would you use the old colours on cakes for eating? So on a personal level, in terms of feeding me, my friends and my family, absolutely 100% yes. Again, it is about quality, not about safety. And to that end, bear in mind that at the minute, certain shops, certain food types and stuff in the UK, under the guidance of the Food Standards Agency, are going through a process of removing dates from food.
I mean, even stuff like, I swear it was like yoghurt was one of them.
Well, because it's not going to, it's quality, not safety.
Well, also, like, if you can't tell when cheese or yoghurt has gone bad, then a vegetable's not going to save you anyway.
This is the thing. In terms of for customers, that is something you need to ask your environmental health, because I know that some are very pragmatic about these things and quite happy that as long as it is a best before and you've used your professional judgment for you to use them. Others, it's a complete no-no. So you would need to check, basically. So the grid thing is a good idea just to get started, or indeed, as we've said, doing a colouring book. You can find colouring book things on
online.
Yeah, just search for kids colouring pages, or practice sketch. So maybe with this, what I'm going to try and do is colour the petals. like so. And then maybe we want to get in closer and have some lines. Like so. Maybe. Yeah. Honestly, the best thing you can do is don't be frightened of it. So, if you want to change colours, such as now, if you've got a load of stuff left in here, you can do this. And I'm going to just rinse out my pipette in the water, because what I want to do now is actually just pass a load of water through the airbrush. So there we go. So as Debbie said, removing best before dates because of food waste. It's exactly that. But as I said, for something, if you are selling food to the public, this is just water in there, I would just check with your EHO just to be on the safe side. Not because there's any harm of them, it's just so that you are, you know, compliant and whatnot. So just damp cloth. We're going to start off, I'm just going to pop some water in there. And just pass it through, basically. We can then pop a little bit more in. If you pull back the trigger and just touch it to the tissue, it will make the it makes this bubble, and you can see I've previously used red on there. We can also just wipe that out. There's still some in there, so what I'm going to do now actually is just take a bit of rejuvenator for a second cleaning, because as always, that being the alcohol, it does such a good job of diluting everything that it cleans it pretty well. There you go, and that is coming out clean. So we'd now be in a position to use another colour with it.
Do you need to do any more to clean out the reservoir?
No, I gave it a good wipe, so as long as it's wiping clean, we should be okay. Which yeah, it is more or less. So just gonna. I can only find 2 pipettes. What I have here is some pink, and the reason it is in a little jar is because about 1 million years ago I lent a pink colour to someone and I never got it back. So what this is a little bit of our food colouring, so our magenta, Immaculate Confections magenta, watered down with rejuvenator and vodka. And because this comes from a gel colour rather than a dust, so there's no particles in it, and like it works fine. I wouldn't necessarily say you want to do this for all your colours because it would get really tedious, but it can be done. So what we would do, so if we were doing a cake or whatever, is just a little bit on a bit of paper, make sure the colour's coming out right, and then we can do whatever we want to do. So I shall give our little flower pink background. And maybe in the middle. So this is one instance where doing, like, thinking about colour mixing and stuff. So if I spray over all of this, you can see it's going to give it a slightly more purpley tone because we're sort of mixing blue and pink. So yeah, right. We're going to do like a colour gradient. This will be your homework, right? We're going to do like a colour gradient. Does anybody have any questions? Because this is a good moment. Do you want to swap us for a second? This is just super basic because I'm pitching this at those of us who just needed to get it out of the box and start somewhere. There's so many more things that you can do with it. It is a bit of hard work. Sorry.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, I can see Jess's comment there. I can't even imagine what time of day it is with you at the minute, Jess. Earlier. It is hard work. You get used to it. And the things that you can do with it are really cool. Like those cakes with a gradient on it. There's just not another way to do that. So that's quite handy.
Mary's comment there.
Spraying isomalt and boiled sugar items, or would it make it dull? I'm going to be honest, Mary, I've got absolutely no idea whatsoever.
Not really something you do.
No, if we have anyone with us that knows about isomalt, that'd be grand. Equally, do feel free to post that question into the main group because I'm sure someone will know. I don't think it would make it dull. I don't know if it would stick because if you want to airbrush on chocolate, for example, you do need slightly different colours that have particles in them, so they're opaque. Which these are not. These are very much translucent. So think of it like the difference between a gouache paint versus a watercolour paint, for example. So, yes, I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid.
Good brand for alcohol-based colours, asks you.
There you go. Joe says it wouldn't adhere to isomalt. I think possibly isomalt is the only thing you've found. The isomalt and chocolate can be a bit iffy, being the two things that it won't stick to. Good brand for alcohol-based colours. I like the chroma colours, to be honest. They've been grand. The sugar flare ones are good. I would say, like, try a couple and see what you fancy. So the airbrush colours should all be matte. The only time they would be shiny is if you've overdone it and you've put on too much colour and it's not able to dry properly. Otherwise, airbrush colours will come up matte. And the trick to it, honestly, is building the colour up slow and steady in little layers. The people run into problems when they go right up close to whatever they're working on, close to the cake, and they whack it on, and that's when it causes a problem. So you want those. It's like with spray painting is the same, anything like that.
Any aerosol.
Yeah, and even painting walls or things, multiple coats. Thin coats is always going to be better than one heavy coat in terms of drying. There we go. So yeah, another one saying wouldn't work for isomalt. I wonder if it would work on isomalt after you had glazed it. Maybe. I don't know if you guys know the answer to that. You can indeed get metallic colours, shimmer colours, as you say. You just got to make sure. So this one here, I don't know if you can see that. That's how long it's been sitting in my cupboard.
Oh, it's separated.
It's completely separated. Do you want to do it? Do you want to show it? Because that's quite funny. Yeah, look, you can see there. It's completely and totally separated. But there you go. And this is what I mean about how this is a opaquer colour because it has those actual particles in it. Whereas something like this, our teal we were just using, will never separate. Metallics and things are going to be sitting in solution, whereas these ones are actually dissolved in the liquid. So if you're using metallic ones, you've just got to mind that it's not too thick or it will gum up your airbrush. Yes, you can clean with vodka. That is not a problem.
Another question. I can't remember who asked it, but can you airbrush on ganache? I think the question was. Yeah, that was it. Michelle had asked.
Yes, but I would say you're probably going to want chocolate colours again. If something is shiny, then think of it in terms of, could I paint watercolours onto this with a brush? And if the answer's no, which I think on ganache would be a half and half, then you'd be better off. You would probably want chocolate colours. Again, hopefully someone can answer that question. Like I said, not an expert. I do the things I do with it, and beyond that, as I said, we can get like if you guys want to do more of this, we can get people in that know a lot more. Right, so Cheryl there has said about she's got something that's blocked hers completely. I'll show you taking the thing apart at the end, and we can hopefully sort that out and do a little bit of troubleshooting with them. But for now, right, so this is your homework. This is what, like, have a go at doing this because it is quite fun. Is just doing like a sunsetty colour gradient. So I've just got a fresh piece of paper. I've already got some pink in here, so you could do pink or red, whatever. And I am going to do those gentle swirls, building the colour up slowly. So remember, we're not going side to side from it. We want to go round and round in circles so that we're avoiding these big things. Now I've just run out, and that's grand. Because what I want to do is take, what have I got? Apricot, I reckon, with my pink. If you think of your colour wheel, they're related, so I'm not going to worry about needing to clean this out fully, because what will happen is that any pink that's left in there is going to mix with the orange and give me an orangey pink, and then it will come through orange. So let's pop this back on. And what you're going to do is add some of your orangey colour under your pink. I've run out, so I'm going to take a little bit more. Yeah, that's loads more. And then you're going to go up and blend it with some of that pink as well, to sort of start creating that gradient. You can absolutely mix the colours, so you can mix them like I've just done, like on the thing you're doing, or indeed you can mix them in the, I've apparently never used the yellow. Hang on, maybe there's a little yellow here as well. Or you can mix them in your pot, which actually, hang on, I couldn't tell you what they are, but that's what these are. So these are clearly little bottles I bought at some point that have got custom mixed colours on in them even. Right, so I've got a bit of yellow. So I'll pop this back on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be popping this under there, like so. And actually, I don't want any more yellow, so I'm going to get rid of that out of here. What I would like, I want to do some more pink at the top, I've decided, so I'm actually going to pop a little bit of rejuvenator in there just to clean it out quickly. There. So I'm going to do a little bit more pink. What's that gone? Right. So I'm going to layer up some more pink at the top there. And bring it down a little bit more to where the orange is. Like so. And then I've got, I'll get rid of the rest of that pink more or less, and then I'm going to pop a little bit of purple in there. And I've got a Sugar Flare Violet here. So let's just check what that colour's like. So yeah, that's a nice purple, and that I'm just going to pop a little bit at the top there. maybe a drop or two more. So, if you are one of our, I've only taken it out the box once, people, this is your homework, right? It's just like when we are dusting petals or whatever. Add the colour slowly to keep control. Check what colour you've got on a spare bit of paper, bit of kitchen paper, whatever it is. Build it up in little layers. Don't go mad all at once. Practice. I know it just looks silly, but play around with this, because the same as, like when folk are starting with flowers, and they'll always say, how do I know how thin to roll my flower paste? And I always say to them, like, roll it as thin as you can for now, and then the next time it will be a bit thinner, and the next time it will be a bit thinner, and the next time it will be a bit thinner. As you become familiar with a task, you get better at it, basically, and it becomes easier to do it. So have a play. With this, you can do something fun as well at the end. I think it's fun anyway. So this here is some black. And I remember, I don't know if you do, Chris, doing this at school. You used to have, right, there were these little metal straw thingies in primary school, this is, that went on a bottle and you'd blow, yeah? Yeah? And similar to that, I'm going to pop some black in. I'm going to spray a lump like this, and then we can, without the trigger pressed, you can use the air out the airbrush to just chase it into little twiggy patterns, which, as I say, is what I remember doing in school. So yeah, I'm not holding the trigger down. I doubt you could do this on a cake, because actually it's I don't think it would work on something vertical. I think you need to be down, but it's just a sort of a silly way to have a play with it. It kind of looks like trees or grass or something, I'm not sure. Or some kind of sea creature, yeah. So yeah, just literally just have a play with it. So, okay, I'll clean it now. How are we doing so far? Are you gonna have a go?
Yes, I will.
Do you want to have a go?
No.
Are you sure?
Oh, okay, no.
What I'm thinking is, so there's, one last thing actually, which is just to say, and you will probably have seen people do this. Again, remember, Natalie is not an expert. You can use all sorts of things as stencils, and thus create and build up a variety of different effects. This isn't even a stencil, it is just a piece of paper. Like so. You can also have some real fun with directional spraying. So you know, like if you used a straw to make scales in icing, and then if you spray only from like a fairly oblique angle, you will just catch one side of it. It looks really cool, but I feel like that's next time. Okay, so it does. It's just we have some bare trees and exactly something. It's almost a picture.
It is a picture.
So yeah, that's. If you want to swap for a second, and I'll put the lids back and things, we'll do it. If you're doing a colour gradient, I don't dilute the colours.
Just a light application.
It's a very light application, that's the thing. So it is the difference between, if I hold this one up again, deeper teal because we did multiple layers of it, lighter teal because it was just the one. That's it. If you wanted it paler than that, then yes, of course, you can dilute the pigment. So you put some vodka in it, put some rejuvenator in it, just like you would do, with any other sort of painting with cakes and things.
Debbie asked, how do you clean your hands?
A couple of things there suggesting from Portia.
Antibacterial?
No. You can use antibacterial, yes. Clothes soap works really well, and shampoo, especially Head and Shoulder shampoo. I also just sort of accept it. Doing this, it is like inevitable, and that is mostly because it leaks. The pots leak. Like I said, I am yet to find a pot that doesn't blooming leak. So yeah, it will happen. You could probably wear gloves if you wanted, but I prefer to be able to sort of feel things. What's named as well. Airbrushed as well. So before we go, I'll just show you how to clean it, and hopefully this will help some of you. If you've got problems with your airbrushes, goodness me, honestly, you would think.
I imagine just some hot water as well.
Well, yes. So running hot water through it. Vanish powder, as in stain remover.
Like
pink.
A detergent?
Yeah. Right. So, first thing we will do is you can do this over the sink, it's safer. And I saw someone say, do I normally use the medium speed? No, if I'm doing a whole cake, I would just do it on full speed. If I'm doing details, then I would reduce it. But again, play with it and see what you're most comfortable with.
Get to know your...
Right, so we will pass through some water to start with. And actually, because I'm getting rid of it altogether, we can just do this. And this, honestly, is way better if you do it over the sink. But it might not surprise you to know that we don't actually have multiple camera angles set up over our kitchen sink. We could. Be exciting times to come.
No.
That's another great... Yeah, okay, so a plastic party tablecloth. That would work a treat as well. Right, so bit of rejuvenator. You can see there's colour coming out. Again, I would be doing this over the sink. I could totally have got a bowl, couldn't I, instead of just doing it on there. And I'm just going to wet this cloth. Like I said, I've got spray. If you were at the sink, you could just wet it. And it's only because I'm going to spray through this whole reservoir of stuff. And it's just, if it's going onto something already wet, like it holds it better. So I'm just going to pass that through, give it a little bubble. And you can see it's actually already coming through fairly clean. So we can take it apart. Oh, no, Proxelli says we call things differently in the UK than the US. We do.
It's just a brand name.
My favourite one is, so one of our Californian colours, Californian cousins, if you say the phrase to him describing something as higgledy-piggledy, he is guaranteed to dissolve into fits of giggles. And he's like a 35-year-old man. But yeah, it was the first time I said that, and I didn't realise it was a thing. Right, so the end will come off like so. The front will come off like so.
Can I just make a suggestion for
you
people?
You can, yes.
People are doing this
I feel like we've got an engineering suggestion coming.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Take a picture on your phone each step of the way, and then you've kind of got them in order. That's
a really good idea, actually. A lot of Chris's camera roll is full of pictures of things he's taken apart to fix, or light sockets and things, or whatever. So all of this we can clean. I've got a cotton bud, which, as always, never underestimate the cleaning power of a cotton bud. Like so. You can also just chuck this in a pot of hot water and just give it a good swish. So that's the bit from the end. The handle's okay. We can now take out the needle. So unscrew this bit at the end. That goes onto those threads there. Can you see that there is a cut on that side and on that side in the threads? that is so that as this screws on, it pinches it, because that is holding the needle in place and connecting it to the trigger, so that when we pull that back, it pulls the needle back. And like we said, the needle at the end there is tapered. So if I pull this out, can you see how very tapered it is? When it's forward, because of that taper, it plugs the hole so no ink can come out. When you then pull it back, obviously it allows the ink to pass. How much you pull it back is going to change how much ink is coming and how much flow you get. That we can just, I'll show you actually. There is always quite a lot of mess on there.
Do you have to take it apart every time to use it?
Yeah, I would. Yes, I do. Yeah, I would do this, and that is simply because you can see this is all brown. Apparently, I didn't the last time I used it, and it's one of those things. It is just good practice, taking care of it, and it will take care of you better. That is all you need to do, really. It is quite hard to do a significant damage beyond that. Any more of this is what you don't want to touch. It's when you remove these bits that this all comes out and the spring comes out, and you want to cry for putting it back together. But like I said,
YouTube is your friend.
Yeah, and there is Dawn Butler from Dinky Doodle has a specific video on exactly how to put it together and how to. If it hasn't happened, don't worry about what I'm about to say. If it has, but this will make sense of how to balance the bits to get them back in so that it all engages and results in a trigger attached to a spring that therefore has resistance. So don't take apart any more than this. Like I said, with the cotton bud, that can be quite handy as well to go in there with the rejuvenator, and then putting it back together. Your needle's going to insert back down there and push it firm but fair so that it does go all the way in. You don't want to give it too much of a shove, but you want it back in. And then that bit will go on top. And then that, hopefully you can see again, the little needle going back in and out there. In fact, I can take that bit off so you can see even better. And whilst we're here, we'll clean this bit too. I mean, I am also a mucky pup, so don't necessarily take this as judgment of what's going to happen if you use your airbrush. So yeah, you can see that coming backwards and forwards. One common problem that people get is that there will be colour coming out before you've touched the trigger, which is something you can test. It'll only be a little bit, but you will see that bit there. You will see it coming out is what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm reading the comments at the same time. If that is happening, it is because your needle isn't all the way in. So let's say you'd taken it apart, you'd put the needle back, but you hadn't actually pushed it all the way in. That means that you're going to fix the needle in place back from the position where it is keeping that hole completely closed. So if you are getting colour without using the trigger, you need to take this apart, make sure your needle's all the way in, screw that on and reassemble it to do it. That's one common problem. If it's clogged, like Chris said, you can, none of this is, it's not electrical or anything. The electricity is in the compressor over there. So if you're clogged, you can always run it through with some hot water. The rejuvenator is good. You can put the rejuvenator, fill the cup with rejuvenator and let them sit a little while. Because remember, your rejuvenator, being very high percentage alcohol, is it is a solvent. So in the same way that you would leave a glossy paintbrush in the spirits to help cut through the paint, it's sort of the same principle as that. You can run it with the air on, without the air on, with the needle in, without the needle in, etc., etc. Do what you can to clear that blockage, because just remember, I don't know, can you see down into that? Because the reservoir,
yeah, you kind of.
if you look at your one, you will see the reservoir goes into the front of the pen here, and you can see the needle running through it. It just means if nothing's coming out, it just means that something between the bottom of the reservoir and where the needle is clogged. So that's just what you need to clean. You can use vodka and gin as rejuvenator. It's just that the rejuvenator, because it's higher percentage alcohol, it gets the job done a bit quicker. And I am, if nothing else, perpetually impatient. So yeah, a couple more votes there for hot water and so on. Where does this bit go? Oh, on the front there. I should have taken a photo. That, what Chris said, is an excellent tip of taking a picture. You can even take it apart slowly and do one of those like exploded diagrams. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. And more than anything, if you are one of those people that has an airbrush sitting in the cupboard gathering dust, I hope it will give you the inspiration, enthusiasm and confidence you need to get it out and have a go and be colourful. We'll see you again very soon.